Hello and welcome to Three Peaks Podcast, where we take a break from the hike of life and appreciate the view. Today, we have Cydni Tetro. You are a CEO, inventor, advocate for STEM, speaker, and a board director for some companies. Would you like to tell us more about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love what you guys are doing, the conversations that you're creating. As you said, right, I am definitely a nerd and a technologist at heart. I love technology. I love, the opportunities that it allows, not for us to just be connected like this, but to really create creation, like solve really great problems of the world. I did my undergrad in computer science. And I spent and I also minored in dance. So I think it's really important to know that you got like those two sides, right, in the ecosystem. And then I've spent my whole career really thinking about how technology creates amazing experiences for us. That took me into places. I spent 6 years at Disney. And I was an Imagineering, and I got to do lots of really cool tech things in transforming the guest experience. When I left there, I did a 3D printing company where we could make you Iron Man. So we scanned your face, and then we you could become a full posable action figure, like Iron Man, Black Widow, Captain America, a Jedi, Stormtrooper, any of those. So I've got to do a lot of really cool things because of technology, build businesses, have these amazing experiences, and really build a career around all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us. So we got a couple of questions for you, and we're going to pass it over to Hermione.
So you're a leader, you said. So what would be some tips you would give to someone that wants to be like a leader, like leadership tips?
I have this rule that I live by around leadership. So, everyone thinks of leadership as a whole bunch of people report to you and you get to kind of tell them what they get to do. That's not really leadership. Leadership is that you're so inspiring as a person that people believe in who you are and your vision, and they want to join you on that journey. And so they see who you are and they're like, that's amazing. And that person cares about me enough that they'll take me forward. And so this rule that I always think about is, as I'm running this company, and maybe I'll run another company in the future, will the people who work for me want to work for me again? And if the answer to that is yes, it tells you two things. It tells you that you understood what they needed, you leaned into their talents, and you helped them become a builder in your success. So you think about all the things that you guys are doing, right? Like you think about the same things, right? You want to accomplish these things, and you want people to help you, and you want people to rally behind you and do all these things that you're trying to get them forward on. You guys are trying to do that with this podcast. And the way that you lead in that space is because people can relate to you so well that they love what you're doing and what you stand for, and they're willing to jump on your team. And people only jump on your team if they think you value them.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your company. Could you tell us more about your company?
Yeah, so today I'm running a company called Brandless, which is totally unapologetically a brand. So we think about how do you brand less and live more? And we're focused on how do you help people take better care of themselves, their families, and the planet. And so we have this combination of having physical products, you can buy stuff on our site, but we're also bringing together brands that are all trying to do good in the world. So we raised about $118 million last year, and we're buying companies that align with our mission, and then we're making them grow faster. And what's super fun about that is I get to meet with all of these amazing entrepreneurs, and I get to think about how you grow businesses, and we get to integrate all of those people together. But then we also get to sell physical products to people that they can use in their daily lives to make them better.
Yeah.
And you're also a public speaker. So what would be some advice you would give to someone that wants to be in public speaking? Because people nowadays are usually scared of it because how people would think. So what advice would you give people?
Okay, so there's two things that I would give advice around. One is, to be someone who can speak on stage, I believe you have to be a couple of things. If you really want to be in that, one is you have to be engaging, right? You
Yeah.
have to be able to relate to the audience and pull them in. I think that requires a level for me of vulnerability, a willingness to share some of the personal connection that you have with this story that you're trying to create. And
Yeah.
also just be able to give those examples that pull people in. You know, when I was at Disney, everything at Disney is about storytelling. This idea that there's an arc to the emotion that we're creating, that I'm trying to pull you in. You know, when you step into a ride at Disney, we transport you to a different world. Right. And for just a moment in time, like when I made you an Iron Man action figure, you became Iron Man for just a moment in time. I put you into a storyline. That same thing happens when you are on stage. You have to transport people into a different mindset, into something that is so engaging that they ride with you through the journey of that, the highs, the lows, right? You always want these moments of like deep emotional connection and some humor and some like arc to the beginning, right? And these powerful beginnings and ends. You become a storyteller on stage.
Yeah.
When I was at grad school, when I was doing my master's program, one of the things that they made us do is a public speaking class. And in that public speaking class, they would give us topics and we'd have to do these presentations, but they would record us. And so they would record you. Then afterwards, we'd look at the recordings and people would also grade you in the room. And then you would look at yourself and you'd be like, oh my gosh, I did that so poorly. I have got to fix, what I did there, because to be a good public speaker, you need to take the feedback. You need to see what the audience sees. And then you just have to believe that the message that you have to share helps other people, defines a category, educates people, and let both that passion, enthusiasm, and confidence show through.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, with receiving feedback, to some people, it's easy and it's productive and it's helpful. But I believe that there's this kind of blurriness when thinking about receiving help from others. People might consider it as just being rude, mean, or just not trying to knock you down. So have you ever received feedback from someone that wasn't necessarily like trying to help you, but like how have you overcome like negative thoughts from people?
Yeah, this is a great question. I'm actually talk about feedback all of the time because I think it's a really critical part to growing. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. When I came out of graduate school, I was pretty sure I knew everything about doing the job that I wanted to do, like everything. And so when I would be in meetings, I'm like, I've got to make sure I share my ideas and my thoughts. And one of my VPs came to me after one of the meetings and he was like, Cyd, you have to stop talking. You have to be quiet and you have to listen. This is one of those points where you get to decide, like, he's totally wrong. I'm totally right. Everyone needs to hear what I'm thinking. Why would he dare say that to me? Or I could pause and say, is that true? Am I being heard in a way that is hurting my career growth or hurting the message that I want to get? Or do I have to speak all the time? It became a very defining moment for me in my career as I reflected on, like, if I take that, and I took his feedback, I actually paused and I said, you know what? He might be right. Maybe I'm talking too much. Maybe it makes me mad or hurt, right? That he's giving me that feedback. But at the same time, he is telling me something that maybe if I fix, I'll become better at. And it totally changed my career and moved it forward. I'll give you one other interesting example, because I think in general, most of the time, people are just trying to help people. That's the way I look at people. Like we're all trying to help each other. And so my high school son, he was on the high school soccer team. And he, it had been preseason, he had been starting. Then he had these couple of games where he wasn't starting and he got super frustrated. And he started being like, I don't like these coaches. I'm super mad at these coaches. Why are they punishing me? I should be starting, right? All this dialogue starts building up in his head. Had a conversation with him and I'm like, you know what? I think you should go talk to the coaches. The only question I think you should ask is, what do I need to do to get back to starting? Like, tell me what I need to do to get back to starting. Mm-hmm. And he went and talked to them and the thing that they said to him was, the problem that you have is your attitude and it's showing up on the field and it's the thing affecting your playing time. Mm-hmm. So this is a perfect moment of what you described. He either gets to come home and say, you're wrong. Like, no matter my attitude, you should be playing me because I'm good enough to be one of those starters. Or he gets to say, do I have some accountability in how people are perceiving me, even if I didn't mean for it to be true? And do I have the control to change that? And so he thought about it. He decided to change his attitude. A game and a half later, he's back to the starting place. But a lot of times feedback's in your own control. You don't have to believe everything, but you do need to pause for a moment and say, is that how I want to be viewed? Is there something in there that I should change that makes me a better team member and contributor? And then make those adjustments, because if you can become better continuously in your life, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So like you were saying, like you're a STEM advocate, you're a technologist, and all this great stuff in tech. So my first question to you is, what got you so into tech?
Yes, great question. So, and I advocate for every person, like every one of you guys and your friends and every teenager, that technology is part of everything in the world today. Like the more you know about tech, the more the power of creation is in your hands. So when I was in high school, I had an opportunity to do an internship at a software company and be a tester. And I'd always been in like done a lot of the like math classes and business classes. But when I had an opportunity to go into a company and like see what that meant and what that job was, it just set my career in that direction. So then when I went to college, I went into electrical engineering first, and then I moved into the computer science department. But what I saw and what unleashed in me in working with the company is that technology like holds this power of creativity and innovation. Like all the things that we can think about, like everything that we might brainstorm that we could solve, like, well, how would I do that? Oh, this technology would let me do that, right? Whether it's like thinking about how we save the planet, or how we travel to space, or how we connect to the world, or how we help other regions in the world that are, third world countries. Like we do this through technology. And if we understand how to invent, then we get to understand how to create. And I love to create. I love to solve problems. I love to create, and take really big things that we might have to transform and do that. And so for me, technology lets me do that every day.
Yeah.
And so you're in a ton of fields, and I was just wondering, who are some of your mentors that have helped you to become the person that you are today?
I have been really lucky to be surrounded by a lot of great different people through my career that have mentored me at many different stages. For me personally, what I found is at every stage of my career, there have been new mentors that have been added in. So I have a good friend of mine. He's actually the person who took me to Disney. He's been a mentor of mine for probably the better part of 15 years. He's brilliant. He did his PhD in computational biophysics at Harvard. He's like the smartest person I know. But he is also the best mentor. And the reason he is because like he has this ability just to care deeply, right? And to think through those problems. So for me, I've had a series of mentors on different topics. Like when I went to go raise money, I'm like, oh, I need some mentors around raising capital, people who have done this before. How do I get them? How do I raise that money? Oh, I'm thinking about next career steps. Who are those people in my ecosystem who have been there before or thought about that? And I've spent a lot of time in my career meeting people and building connections that I can leverage as mentors over time. And I think that's really important for everyone. Like every person you guys meet, every person that you interview is an opportunity to connect with someone, because chances of your paths crossing down the line is very high. Like you'll meet those people again, you'll see them again, and you'll build relationships. And some of those people will become mentors because you've built great relationships with them.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something about this girls STEM program. Can you tell us more like about what that is?
Yes. So, when I came through computer science, I was only one of 3 women in my computer science class. And today, even still in the tech industry, so we have like 4,000 technology jobs open here in the state. And in tech, only about 25% of our jobs are actually held by women, although 50% of our working population are women. So it's very equally distributed between those. That just shows there's like a really big gap between like, how do we encourage and get the thinking, because we want all of the diverse ideas. Like as a group, you guys all approach the world differently. You have really great different ideas that collectively like allow you to be successful. We want the same thing in business. We want all of these great minds thinking together to solve these great problems. So I'm always about how do we increase the number of girls in STEM? How do we give them mentors and role models and increase that? So about 7 years ago, we created a program called SheTech. It's had about 30,000 high school girls go through the program. And it is all about how do we show them all these great things and opportunities that are happening in technology and show them the pathways in. This year at SheTech at Explore Day, like we even had people like Coca-Cola was there. So Coca-Cola was there. They were showing their new Starlight like drink that's on the shelves that you can find right now. And they did a whole data science project around it. With the students, that's like a really interesting example. And then on the other side, you've got, Teslas that are sitting there with tech and automotive, and we had an airplane in the facility. And then we have like coding ecosystems, and just you all of a sudden see and realize if you can tangibly experience this idea that tech is everywhere and that whatever you're passionate about, there's a place for you. So we spend a lot of time working on that. We have an internship program. We run it. There's about 3,000 girls in the program every year. Clubs, there's clubs in the high schools, there's SheTech clubs that the girls are advocating for. And for me, it's just really meaningful. It's changing the trajectories and the opportunities that young women see themselves in. And I'm a big believer that if you can see someone who looks like you, that you will understand that you could become that person someday, and it will open doors that won't otherwise be opened.
Yeah.
So with getting into like SheTech or something like that, what are ways that you can help people of young age to get into it and be more invested in it?
Yeah. So what's the coolest thing that's out there today is you have so many opportunities to participate in STEM, right? Because there's not only is it happening at your school, like you're already taking the CTE classes that teach you about laser printing and 3D printing and scratch coding. Everyone is already doing those things. What I think is the great opportunity is the integration of what you're interested in and seeing how it actually happens in the workforce, right? So I think the coolest thing that's happening right now is that the world is opening to high school students to actually take internships, especially in the summer, and actually learn what's happening in these technology companies, so you can figure out what you like or what you don't like. And I think and so it takes two things. It takes us opening the doors to make sure that we as industry are providing these opportunities. It requires the students to say, I'm willing to sign up and do that, right? Like I'm willing to jump into this opportunity and take some ownership and accountability and get exposure into things that might be new or uncomfortable, or that I might not have thought I could do, but I could do if I join those. So, for me personally, I do a lot of that. We'll have about 150 girls in an internship program this summer, all tied into our tech ecosystem. We take them on site. We even, like this year, I think we're doing a tech tour of the Real Stadium, the Real Soccer Stadium.
Yeah.
Like there's so much technology underneath that. We're doing it at the Health Center Theater. So just like anything that you can do to like take advantage right now, and every student should take advantage of every opportunity that they are given to go explore things.
Yeah. And so obviously being a spokesperson, you get invited to so many events and you're allowed to spread your wisdom with everyone that's listening to your presentation. So what are some of your events that are upcoming and possibly some of our viewers could go check out to find a career in technology?
I have free tickets to anyone who wants to come to some of these. So we're actually hosting a consumer summit on April 28th. The consumer industry is really big here in Utah. So consumer, like you can think of anything that's in like the physical products that you buy, right? So we have massive markets here. We have lots of technology underneath that. And we're hosting a half-day summit in Draper, which is going to have all of like your favorite companies. So everyone from like the Cotopaxies to the Crumble Cookies to, we'll be there, like all sorts of really cool things. And really amazing CEOs who are going to be talking about that. Gab Wireless, like the whole continuum of everything in the ecosystem. So anyone can come. And then on the Women Tech Council side, we're actually doing a talent summit on May 4th. Because maybe May the 4th be with you, right? We could like throw our Star Wars lore in there along the way. But it's also all around, like we're in an interesting time in the workforce where the pandemic has really, made everyone think about what they want to do and how they want to spend their time. And you guys are going to be thinking about like, I want to do this with my life, but I also need to make money, but I also want to go explore the world and, wander and do all of those things. And so how that looks for individuals. So we're doing a talent summit that's all about what that reinvention looks like for people, what companies are doing to attract talent. And seriously, anyone is invited to attend. There's also the internship program for any high school girl, 9th through 12th grade, that's running in the summer. There's a few spots left, all of those things. And seriously, anything that I'm involved in that someone wants to attend, they always have an open invite to ask me and I'll help them get there.
Yeah. So you're a STEM advocate. Why do you think it's important to advocate for the STEM program?
Fundamentally for me, it's because tech powers everything in the world today. And so what it requires is you need lots of people thinking about how do you solve problems. You need all of that perspective in the most critical places for the world. And tech is the most critical component of every problem solving initiative we're taking today. It's the way you reach every corner of the earth. It's the way that we save the planet. It's the way that we drive communication. If you look at any of the any of the contention that exists in the world today, technology is at the core of how we're trying to solve it, or even how we're trying to fight for good in those ecosystems. The more you know in the space, the more you will be able to help.
So one of the questions we had at the start, you were talking about your time at Disney as an Imagineer. And obviously that is a very interesting job because one, you get to create such incredible forms of entertainment for the guests at the park. But what are some of the challenges that come along with that job? Because I don't think either of us could try to figure out how to create a robot could do the job of entertaining an entire park. So what are some of the challenges that come along with being a part of that job?
So the group that I went into was Disney got really focused on what's the technology that will transform the company over the next decade. So this was robotics. It included artificial intelligence. It included 3D printing and all sorts of things. The greatest challenge is figuring out which technology is mature enough that you can create an experience that's meaningful. And so, because one of my jobs was to filter that. We had all sorts of amazing things. I'll give you a couple, of examples of innovation that's come out of the Disney ecosystem that you would be familiar with. So have you guys seen Tangled?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, everyone should have watched Tangled. Okay, when she cuts her hair and there's this ray of light, zooms on the screen, on that. It's actually an innovation in animation, a very specific piece of technology that makes that light distribution work. So that's really cool. Right. So the hardest part is so that's an amazing innovation. And then you start to think about, well, how do you scale that? What are the other places that it goes? Who else could use that? And so the greatest challenge you have in technology is how you apply it to make impact. Yeah. Right. Which was true at Disney also. You see all of these amazing technologies, and then you have to think about, well, which ones of these are ready for people to actually use? And that if we invest in it, will make sense for the experience. One of the technologies that got deployed across the theme parks that I worked on when I was there were, if you go to any nighttime show, and we launched this with World of Color, which used to be in California Adventure, it's got the fireworks and the water, and you project on the screens on the water. So we decided that at night, most of the guests were just watching the show, but we wanted them to be active participants. We wanted them to be immersed in the story. So we invented a technology where everything that would glow. So you wear your Mickey ear hats, they would glow, but they would now integrate with the show control system. So when you watched the show, they would light up in a sequence that completely worked with the nighttime spectacular. So now every person was actually part of a show, and it was all technology based. Mm-hmm. So the ears had technology in them. There were big receivers that had technology integrated into the show control system. We launched it with the opening of Cars Land. Mm-hmm. And it was really cool because it created magic, right? The emotion that you felt when all of a sudden, 5,000 people watching or part of an experience is really powerful. So that's always the challenge of technology. Same challenge that exists at Disney, which is how do you make sure the things that you focus on make a meaningful difference and make sense to take into the world?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, being a CEO and founder of a company is a pretty difficult task. So one of the questions I wanted to ask is, what are some of the ways to control a company to the point where it runs smoothly with the employees being satisfied and making sure that customers' expectations are being exceeded and that everything is just moving smoothly?
This is always a good question because in the world of building companies, something goes wrong every day. So there's two really critical components that it's kind of like life, right? Like something's always going wrong. So first and foremost, it's about the people you surround yourself with. Do you have lots of great people who are skilled and who problem solve with you? And then second, it is also about this ability that you have, because problems always happen, to manage by data and information and not by emotion. Right. So it's easy to get ruffled when something wrong happens, right? Because it disrupts what you were thinking, disrupts your day or your mood. But in building businesses, you and really in life, you have to figure out like, what's the information coming in? What can I change? What can't I change? And how do I motivate the team to go forward? So when you build companies, it's just like that. It's like have great people around you, managed by data and not by emotion, and then provide a vision that everyone's so excited to be a part of that they know how to go drive towards that.
Yeah. So for our final question on the podcast, it's usually known as the big one. And are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So what is your advice to the younger generation?
Yeah, so I have two things. One is believe in yourself. Like you are going to do amazing things to solve problems. I think that's one of the most critical things. And I think the other thing is don't just be fearless. Like even if you fail, it's okay. Go for it. Right? Know that you're going to fail a few times and just like move forward to do really great things. And you will accomplish them. I would also say you should always be part of technology. Like every person should go into some STEM field because you will help make a big difference in the world by doing that.
Yeah. Well, we just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast with us and sharing your amazing knowledge with our viewers and us as well.
Yeah, well, you guys are awesome. I'm cheering you on. Love what you're doing. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much. That's all we have for you on the Three Peaks podcast. We'll see you guys next time and have a very good day.